I've always believed that family is supposed to be your safe place. The people who clap the loudest when you succeed and the ones who catch you when you stumble. But for me, family was more like a constant storm cloud, unpredictable and leaving me drenched in shame every time I tried to bask in a little sunlight. My name is Alina Ramirez, and if you had met me a few years ago, you'd never guess how much weight I carried around, not just in my heart, but in my very soul. From the outside, I probably looked like any ordinary young woman, studious, quiet, maybe even a little timid. But on the inside, I was a battleground of scars carved by my own relatives, the people I was supposed to love the most. Growing up, my parents, Raphael and Marta, were hardworking but stern. My father owned a small auto repair shop, and my mother worked part-time as a seamstress. We weren't poor, but we were far from comfortable. Money was tight, and tension was constant. I had an older sister, Isabella, who was everything I wasn't. She was loud, confident, and bold traits my parents seemed to worship. If Isabella got a B on an exam, my mother would beam and say, "At least she tried. She's so smart, my Isa." But if I came home with an A-ness, my father would frown and mutter, "Why not an A? You should focus more. Stop wasting time with your silly notebooks." What he called silly notebooks were my sanctuary. I filled them with thoughts, stories, and even daydreams of a life where I wasn't constantly compared to my sister. A life where I was more than the shadow cast by Isabella's perfection. The favoritism wasn't subtle. Family gatherings always turned into showcases of Isabella's charm. She was praised for her looks, her social skills, her supposed brilliance. And me, I was the quiet one, the awkward one, the bookworm. That word was spat at me like an insult, never a compliment. As we grew older, the differences became sharper. Isabella went to a local college, majored in communications, and had a string of boyfriends who worshipped her. I, on the other hand, worked tirelessly, earned scholarships, and eventually got into one of the top universities in the state. You'd think my parents would be proud, right? Instead, my mother sighed. "Why so far away, Alina? Who's going to look after you? And besides, what will people say if you come back without a husband? Education isn't everything, you know." I bit my tongue, as I always did. But in my heart, I screamed, "Why can't you see me? Why can't you love me for who I am?" At university, I finally found air to breathe. I studied hard, worked part-time jobs, and surrounded myself with mentors and classmates who appreciated my effort. For the first time, I wasn't just Isabella's little sister. I was Elena, the girl who was going to graduate at the top of her class. Still, every holiday or family trip home was a reminder that I could never outrun their judgment. Isabella would strut around in new clothes, gifts from her latest boyfriend, while my parents gushed over her. Then, with a sly smile, she'd glance at me and say something like, "Still single, Lena? Still hiding in your books?" Everyone would laugh and I would force a smile. But inside, I was dying. By my final year, I had landed a prestigious internship at a major firm. My boss, Mr. Bennett, was stern but fair. He noticed my diligence, the late nights I stayed 2 perfect presentations, the way I volunteered for even the hardest tasks. For once, someone in authority saw my worth. When graduation finally loomed, I felt both excitement and dread. I would walk across that stage with honors, something my family could never take away from me. Yet I knew the celebration that followed the graduation dinner would be another stage for humiliation. My parents had insisted on organizing it at a fancy restaurant, inviting not just close relatives, but also distant cousins, neighbors, and family friends. To them, it was a show of status. To me, it was a looming battlefield. The weeks leading up to graduation, the tension in our family chat grew unbearable. Isabella constantly made snide remarks. "Isabella, don't get too full of yourself. Lena, a degree doesn't make you better than anyone. Some of us have social skills, you know." Me typing, then deleting. At least I worked for mine. I never sent those words. I always swallowed them. I didn't want to be the problem. But I could feel the bitterness rising like bile. Even my mother had her way of dimming my light. One evening, while hemming one of Isabella's dresses, she sighed. "Don't be too proud at that dinner, Alina. Pride makes people dislike you." better stay humble. I wanted to scream, why do you only tell me that? Why not tell Isabella? But again, I said nothing. The morning of my graduation was bright and warm, the kind of day that should have felt like hope. I wore my gown, cap, and honor cords with trembling hands. As I looked in the mirror, I whispered, "You did it, Alina. No one can take this from you." At the ceremony, I spotted my family in the crowd. My father looked impatient, checking his watch. My mother was fussing over Isabella's hair. Isabella, of course, wore a flashy dress, even though she wasn't the one graduating. I forced myself to ignore them and focus on the stage. When my name was called Alina Ramirez, summa cum laude, I walked across the stage to thunderous applause. My heart soared. For that one moment, I felt free, powerful, and enough. But as I glanced at my family's table, I noticed something that pierced my joy. Isabella yawning, my father clapping half-heartedly, and my mother smiling politely as if it were a duty, not pride. After the ceremony, pictures were taken, hugs exchanged, and I tried desperately to hold on to that sliver of joy. But my father soon announced, "Let's go to the restaurant." The real celebration begins now. I felt a knot in my stomach. I knew what celebration meant in our family. Comparisons, backhanded compliments, and subtle digs that left me hollow. As we drove to the upscale restaurant downtown, a place I'd never have chosen for myself, I kept rehearsing lines in my head. "Thank you for coming. I appreciate your support. I'm grateful for tonight." But deep inside, another voice whispered, "Brace yourself, Alina. Tonight, they'll try to tear you down again." And I didn't know yet just how cruel that dinner would become, more that fate had already arranged an unexpected guest who would change everything. The restaurant my parents had chosen was one of those places that practically screamed prestige. Golden chandeliers, velvet drapes, waiters in crisp black suits. The kind of place where you feel like even the air has been pressed and ironed. I had never stepped foot in such a restaurant before, and the moment we entered, I felt my shoulders tense. "Smile, Alina," my mother hissed under her breath, tugging at my gown sleeve. People are watching. People, yes, there were so many of them. I recognized my aunts and uncles, a couple of distant cousins I hadn't seen in years, even neighbors who had no real reason to be there. And of course, all eyes went immediately to Isabella, who strutted into the room as though she were the guest of honor. "Lena, don't slouch. Fix your hair." Her voice pierced me before I even reached the table. The long banquet table was covered in white linen, decorated with roses and tall crystal glasses. I slid into a seat near the corner, trying to remain invisible. But Isabella plopped herself in the very center, commanding attention, laughing loudly, telling some exaggerated story about how one of her ex-boyfriends still sent her flowers. Within minutes, I was surrounded by a chorus of comparisons. "Aunt Rosa, Isabella, you look stunning. That dress. You could be on television. Cousin Mateo, and you're working in media now, right? That's so glamorous." Isabella smirking at me. "Yes, while some people prefer hiding in books." Their laughter rang out, stabbing at me with each chuckle. I felt my cheeks burn. I wanted to vanish into the linen tablecloth. When the waiter handed out menus, my father barked, "Careful what you order, Elena. Don't embarrass us by choosing the most expensive thing. We're not made of money." My throat tightened. Everyone else was chatting about appetizers, steaks, and wine, while I silently folded the menu closed, deciding on the cheapest pasta I could find. After the first round of drinks arrived, my uncle stood up, tapping his glass. "Uncle Victor, a toast. To Alina, of course, for finally graduating." The slip wasn't accidental. Everyone laughed. Even my mother shook her head as though the mix-up was understandable. I forced a smile as glasses clinked. "Breathe, Alina. Just breathe. Tonight is about you." But then Isabella leaned forward, raising her glass with a sly grin. "Isabella, to my little sister, who finally managed to finish school. We were all worried those books would swallow her whole. But look, she came out alive." The table erupted in laughter again. I felt the sting of tears behind my eyes, but swallowed them down. The humiliation didn't stop there. The conversation soon turned to careers. Cousin Anna, so Alina, what are you going to do now with that degree? Me. Hesitantly, I've been offered a position at a consulting firm. Full-time, I start next month. Father snorting, consulting HM. Sounds like sitting in an office pretending to be important. Isabella, exactly. At least my job is exciting. TV, cameras, people. Not spreadsheets and boring meetings. Again, laughter rippled through the table. I felt my heart sink deeper with each passing second. As if words weren't enough, Isabella decided to take it further. She eyed my simple navy dress, the only nice one I owned, bought on sale after months of saving, and smirked. Isabella? Oh, Lena, that dress. It's cute. Kind of old-fashioned, though. Did you borrow it from Mom's closet? The jab sent a wave of snickers around the table. I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood. My mother didn't defend me. Instead, she adjusted Isabella's necklace and whispered something that made her laugh even louder. As the night dragged on, food arrived, lavish dishes, steaks, lobsters, bottles of wine that cost more than my monthly rent. I barely touched my pasta, my appetite drowned under humiliation. I knew what was coming, the bill. My father had a reputation for making scenes when it came to money. I could already hear him snapping at me. Don't think you're special just because you graduated. We didn't raise you to waste money. The thought of him shaming me in front of everyone made my stomach twist. Then it happened. As dessert was being served, Isabella raised her voice deliberately. Isabella, you know it's funny. Alina works so hard, but she's still so plain. I mean, look at her compared to the rest of us. We shine, and she just blends. The room went silent for a split second, then roared with laughter again. My father slapped the table as though it were the funniest thing he'd ever heard. I stared at the tablecloth, my vision blurring. Inside, a storm was raging. Why do they hate me so much? Why do they need to crush me every chance they get? My hands shook so violently I had to hide them under the table. I wanted to stand up, scream, run away, but my legs were frozen. As coffee was poured, the waiter discreetly placed the bill folder at the end of the table. My father immediately pushed it toward me. Father, since you're the graduate now, Miss Big Shot, you can pay. Show us how independent you really are. The words sliced through me like a blade. Gasps and giggles erupted around the table. Isabella clapped her hands like it was the punchline of a great joke. Tears burned my eyes. I had barely $60 in my wallet. I knew that bill was several hundred, maybe more. My throat closed up. Me whispering, I can't. Father louder, mocking. What do you mean, you can't? You're a consultant now, aren't you? Or was that another one of your bookish fantasies? Everyone stared at me. I felt like a bug pinned under glass, squirming as they laughed. The shame was unbearable. My cheeks burned, my chest tightened, and I thought for a moment I might collapse. Inside my head, one thought pounded over and over. Why invite me here if all you wanted was to humiliate me? Why can't they just let me breathe? I sat frozen at that table, the laughter echoing in my ears like cruel thunder. My father's voice still rang sharp. Since you're the graduate now, Miss Big Shot, you can pay. My hands clenched under the table, nails biting into my palms. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even look up. The weight of their stares pressed down on me like lead. They were waiting to see me crumble, waiting for the punchline to complete their perfect evening of mockery. And then a calm, authoritative voice cut through the noise. I'll take care of the bill. The room fell silent. For the first time all night, every mocking laugh died midair. I lifted my head slowly, my tears blurring the scene. And there he was, standing just a few feet away, Mr. Bennett, my boss. Dressed sharply in a tailored suit, exuding the quiet confidence that commanded respect without ever raising his voice. My mouth fell open. What is he doing here? He walked toward our table, his expression calm but his eyes sharp as steel. The waiter, clearly relieved, handed him the bill folder, which he opened, glanced at, and slipped his black card in too, without hesitation. Mr. Bennett, Dinner's on me. After all, Elena's achievement is worth celebrating properly. The ripple of shock around the table was almost audible. My father blinked, his jaw tightening. Isabella's painted smile faltered, her wine glass trembling slightly in her hand. My mother's eyes darted nervously between me and Mr. Bennet. Isabella trying to recover. "Oh, Mr. Bennet. What a surprise. You know my sister." Mr. Bennet coolly. "I don't just know her. Alina is one of the brightest interns my firm has ever had. In fact, she's already secured a full-time position. Her dedication is unmatched." My heart stopped. He said it with such certainty, such pride, that I barely recognized myself in the description. Me, brightest intern. Dedication unmatched. Around the table, eyes widened. My cousins whispered to each other. My uncle, who'd earlier made the slip toast to Isabella, looked suddenly embarrassed. But Mr. Bennet wasn't finished. He rested a hand lightly on the back of my chair, as if grounding me, protecting me. "Mr. Bennet, you all should be proud. Alina has been handling projects that seasoned employees struggle with. Late nights, weekends, she gives everything. And she does it with integrity. That's rare." I could feel the blood rushing to my cheeks. Not from shame this time, but from the unfamiliar sensation of being seen. My father coughed, clearly uncomfortable. "Father, well, she's always been book smart." Mr. Bennet correcting firmly. "She's more than book smart. She has vision. She has grit. And frankly, I'd trust her with million-dollar accounts before I'd trust most others." The words sliced through the air, sharper than any insult my family had thrown at me. For the first time, it wasn't me on trial, it was them. Isabella, never one to let the spotlight slip, leaned forward with a forced laugh. "Isabella, well, good for you, Lena. I guess even the quiet ones get lucky sometimes." But Mr. Bennet's eyes narrowed. "Mr. Bennet, luck has nothing to do with it. Alina earned every opportunity through hard work. Something too many people underestimate." I glanced at Isabella. For once, her confident smirk was gone. She looked rattled. The rest of the table sat awkwardly, their laughter dried up, their jokes silenced. No one seemed to know what to say. The waiter returned with the receipt, which Mr. Bennet signed effortlessly. Then he looked at me, his expression softening. "Mr. Bennet, congratulations again. Alina, this is just the beginning for you." I felt tears welling in my eyes again, but this time they weren't from humiliation, they were from relief. Gratitude, vindication. He sees me. He actually sees me. As Mr. Bennet stepped away to take a phone call, the table erupted in uneasy murmurs. Aunt Rosa hushed. "I didn't know she was doing that well." Uncle Victor, brightest intern. $1 million accounts. "Really?" Cousin Anna, "Maybe we've underestimated her." I sat silently, my heart still racing. For once, the room wasn't filled with laughter at my expense. It was filled with whispers of doubt directed at them. My father finally broke the silence, his voice harsher than ever. "Father, don't think this changes anything. Alina, just because your boss paid for dinner doesn't mean you're suddenly special. We're still your family. Don't forget that." But the venom in his words betrayed him. He wasn't reasserting authority, he was scrambling to hold on to it. I could see it in his eyes. Fear. Fear that he had lost control of the narrative he had always written about me. As the evening dragged toward its end, I sat there in stunned silence, replaying everything Mr. Bennet had said. For years, I had begged for just a fraction of that recognition from my own blood. Yet it had taken an outsider, a boss, a mentor, to pull back the curtain and reveal my worth to the very people who had trampled on it. It was bittersweet. On one hand, I finally felt vindicated. On the other, the revelation hurt deeply. My family had always known what I was capable of. They just chose not to see it. When we finally left the restaurant, the night air was cool against my flushed face. Isabella walked ahead, her silence louder than any insult. My parents trailed behind, their expressions unreadable. But me? For the first time, I walked with my back straight, my chin lifted. The humiliation had been real, yes, but the twist had arrived. And deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. The dinner had only lit the fuse. The real explosion, the moment of justice, was still to come. The walk out of the restaurant should have been triumphant. But instead, it was heavy-like trudging through thick mud with chains around my ankles. My family moved in awkward silence, the kind that hums with unspoken words. I knew they were simmering, not because of pride in me, but because Mr. Bennet had shattered the script they had written for years. We reached the parking lot. My father turned on me with a glare sharp enough to cut glass. "Father, you think you're something now, don't you? Just because your boss showed up and flashed some money?" His words hit like stones, but for the first time I didn't flinch. Me quietly but firmly. "I don't think I'm something, Dad. I am something. I always was." He froze, as if the quiet steel in my voice surprised him. I'd never spoken back like that before. Isabella scoffed loudly, tossing her hair. "Isabella, please, Alina, don't get carried away. You're still the boring little sister. Don't let a few fancy words from your boss make you delusional." The old me would have lowered my head, swallowed the insult, let it carve another scar. But not tonight. Something had cracked open inside me at that dinner table. Something fierce. Me steady. "You're right about one thing, Isabella. I am the little sister. But don't confuse quiet for weak. I built myself brick by brick while you were busy shining for the crowd." She blinked, clearly not expecting me to talk back. By now, a few family members had gathered around in the parking lot, their whispers swirling like smoke. Cousins, aunts, uncles' eyes darting between me and my parents, sensing something monumental was about to erupt. My mother tried to cut in with her usual dismissive tone. "Mother Alina, lower your voice. Don't make a scene." And that's when the fire ignited fully inside me. Me sharply. "A scene? You mean like tonight, when you all laughed at me for hours? When Dad shoved the bill in my face just to humiliate me? That wasn't a scene." The words came out louder than I intended, echoing across the lot. Heads turned. My parents stiffened. I took a deep breath, my chest rising, my voice trembling but growing stronger with every word. "Me, all my life, I've been your punching bag. I was never pretty enough, never loud enough, never like Isabella. Every achievement I had, you cut it down. When I got scholarships, you said it wasn't enough. When I got into university, you said I should have stayed close to home. Tonight was supposed to be my night, and you turned it into a circus at my expense." My voice cracked, but I didn't stop. Years of swallowed pain were spilling out like floodwaters, finally breaking through a dam. Me pointing at Isabella, and you, my own sister. You mocked my dress, my career, my life. Do you get joy from tearing me down? Does it make you feel bigger? Isabella's mouth opened, then closed. For once, she had no snappy retort. I hadn't realized it, but Mr. Bennet had stepped outside during the commotion, his phone call finished. He stood a few yards away, watching silently. The weight of his gaze steadied me. Around us, my relatives shifted uneasily. Some looked ashamed. Some avoided my eyes entirely. Others, like Aunt Rosa, looked stricken with guilt. Aunt Rosa softly, "Alina, we didn't realize me cutting in." "Yes, you did." "You all realized?" "You just didn't care." The truth hung in the air like smoke after a fire. My father's face turned red, his voice rising. "Father, enough of this nonsense. You will not stand here and disrespect your family. We raised you, fed you, put clothes on your back," me interrupting, voice like steel, and used every chance to remind me I wasn't good enough. That's not love. That's control. Gasps rippled through the crowd. My father's hands shook with fury, but for once his anger didn't scare me. It only fueled me. Mr. Bennet finally stepped forward, his voice calm but resonant. "Mr. Bennet, Alina is right. What I saw tonight was cruelty disguised as family banter. Do you know how rare it is to find someone with her dedication? Do you know how much she sacrificed? She deserved celebration, not humiliation." My father opened his mouth, but Mr. Bennet didn't let him speak. "Mr. Bennet, and Let me be clear. Elena's future is bright with or without your approval. She's valued where it matters. And after tonight, I promise you, she'll never have to question that again. The authority in his voice was undeniable. People shifted uncomfortably, glancing at each other, realizing the tables had turned completely. Isabella muttered bitterly under her breath, "Isabella, this is ridiculous. She's not that special." But then Cousin Anna spoke up, her voice trembling. Cousin Anna, actually. She is. Alina helped me with my college essays last year. She stayed up all night with me, even though she had exams the next day, and she never asked for anything in return. Another cousin added, Matteo. She helped me get a part-time job too. She reviewed my resume. Suddenly, voices rose around me, people confessing small moments where I had helped them, supported them. Things I had long forgotten, acts of kindness I never thought twice about. For once, the spotlight wasn't on Isabella. It was on me, and it was real. Isabella's face went pale, her lips trembling with anger. My mother's eyes glistened with tears, though whether from shame or fury, I couldn't tell. My father looked like a man who'd lost his grip on the reins of a horse that had bolted. I straightened my back, my voice calm now, but resolute. Me, I don't need your approval anymore. I don't need your validation. I have built a life on my own with my own hands. And from now on, I will not let any of you belittle me again. The silence that followed was heavy, but it wasn't suffocating this time. It was freeing. Mr. Bennet gave me a small nod, almost imperceptible, but it said everything. You did it. You stood up. For the first time in years, I felt taller. Not because I had humiliated them in return, but because I had reclaimed my voice. The weight I'd carried for so long, shame, silence, fear slid off my shoulders. As we dispersed, my relatives avoided my father's glare. Some gave me small, supportive smiles. Isabella stormed off in a rage, her heels clacking angrily against the pavement. My mother muttered something about families should stick together, but even her words lacked conviction. I knew things would never be the same. And maybe that was the point. That night, justice wasn't just about a paid bill, was about a paid debt. The debt of years of silence finally collected, the balance tipped in my favor. That night, when I finally closed the door to my small apartment, the silence was deafening, but in the best way. No mocking laughter. No forced smiles. No sharp jabs disguised as jokes. Just me standing in my living room, staring at my reflection in the darkened window. For the first time in my life, I saw someone I recognized. Not the awkward, quiet girl constantly overshadowed by her sister. Not the punching bag of her family. Not the invisible daughter who could never be enough. I saw Alina, a woman who had finally stood tall. In the days that followed, the family group chat was strangely quiet. Normally, it buzzed with gossip, pictures, endless commentary. Now, only a few awkward messages popped up. A good morning from Aunt Rosa. A how's everyone? From Cousin Matteo. No one mentioned the dinner. No one dared. But I knew the silence wasn't posit, was discomfort. They had been forced to confront a truth they had long ignored. I was no longer their scapegoat. I had broken the script. One evening, my phone buzzed. It was Isabella. For a moment, I considered ignoring it, but curiosity won. Me answering cautiously, "Hello." Isabella flat-toned. "So, congratulations. You really embarrassed us the other night." Her words carried venom, but underneath I caught something else, fear. Insecurity. Me, calmly. "No, Isabella. I didn't embarrass you. I told the truth. If the truth embarrasses you, that's not my fault." There was silence on the line. For once, she didn't have a comeback. She mumbled something about being busy and hung up. When the call ended, I felt lighter. I didn't need her approval. Not anymore. At the office, things shifted too. Mr. Bennet pulled me aside the Monday after graduation. "Mr. Bennet?" I didn't plan to intrude that night, Elena, but I'm glad I did. I saw something in yous. Something more than just a hard-working employee. I saw strength. Don't ever let anyone dim that again. His words struck deep. For years I had let others define me. But now, I had proof both in my work and in myself that I was capable, worthy, strong. I dove into my new role at the firm with renewed fire. Late nights felt less like sacrifice and more like investment. Every project I completed, every client I impressed, was another brick in the foundation of the life I was building, one no one could tear down. But even as I thrived, the question lingered. What about my family? I wrestled with it for weeks. Part of me wanted to cut them off completely, to leave behind the years of pain and never look back. Another part of me, maybe the part that still longed for a mother's pride or a father's approval, wondered if forgiveness was possible. Eventually, I realized something important. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean allowing the cycle to continue. It means letting go of the weight. So I made peace not with them, but with myself. If they chose to change, if they chose to see me, I would meet them halfway. If not, I would still be fine. Weeks later, Aunt Rosa visited me unexpectedly. She brought a small plant as a gift, setting it gently on my counter. Aunt Rosa hesitant. Alina, I owe you an apology. We laughed when we shouldn't have. We stayed silent when we should have spoken up. I don't know if we can undo it, but I want you to know I see you now. Her voice cracked. I felt a lump rise in my throat. Me softly. Thank you. That means more than you know. It wasn't a full repair, but it was a start. And sometimes starts are enough. Looking back, I realized that night at the restaurant was never just about a bill. It was about value. Who gets to decide it? Who gets to validate it? For years, I had handed that power to my family, letting their cruel words carve my sense of self. But the truth, my worth was never theirs to define. I am not plain. I am not weak. I am not invisible. I am Alina, and I am enough. I kept a copy of the restaurant receipt. Mr. Bennett had asked the waiter for an extra printout, cues, and handed it to me with a quiet smile. Mr. Bennett, not as a reminder of their cruelty, but as proof of your strength. You endured and you rose. I framed it. It hangs on my wall to this day. Not as a memory of humiliation, but as the moment my life pivoted. The night I took back my voice. If someone had told me years ago that my story would end like this, with vindication, with hope, with strength, I wouldn't have believed them. Back then, all I knew was silence, shame, and survival. But here I am, telling my story. Not to dwell on the pain, but to remind anyone listening, you don't need the approval of those who refuse to see you. Sometimes, family isn't who you're born with, it's who recognizes your worth. For me, that was Mr. Bennett. That was a few cousins who finally spoke up. That was the voice inside me that finally screamed, enough. And that's the voice I carry forward. So if you've ever felt like the invisible one at the table, the butt of the joke, the forgotten sibling, hear me now, your story isn't over. One day, you'll have your moment. One day, the people who underestimated you will watch as you rise, not because of them, but despite them. And when that day comes, you'll know what I know now. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's as simple as walking away taller than when you arrived. Because at my graduation dinner, they humiliated me. But my boss paid the bill, and I walked out richer than any of them ever will be. And that was my story. If you felt every twist, every betrayal, and every ounce of justice with me, don't leave just yet. Hit that like button so more people hear this story. Make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Okay. Because there are so many more real-life dramas and shocking family secrets waiting for you. And if you've ever been through something similar, share your thoughts in the comments. I promise, you're not alone. Until next time, stay strong. And remember, revenge is best served when the truth finally comes to light.